I am unable to hear the music on this end.
So if you got the producer, yeah,
Huh. Yeah, check sound. I can hear you, but I can't hear the music.
Somebody commented on that last week too. Definitely hear coming through.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not broadcasting through. Oh, it came in for a second, for like a split second. Yeah, it came in and then it. Oh, does it on the Roadcaster is the USB volume up? Call Andy real quick.
So we're 50 seconds away. We'll just worry about it.
All right.
Good morning, everybody. Hey, welcome. Hey, Holly. Hey, Anthony. Hey, Dan, Devin, Eileen, Matt. Welcome. How you doing this morning?
Good morning, everybody. How are you?
Doing great.
And Norma, I love your little placard there. That is one of my mother's favorite quotes as well. It's never duck.
I got to see Norma here. Norma's
right,
still
Anthony,
joining.
like, it's never duck.
Never that. Yeah, I like that.
Every time I send her something and I'm like, that was a typo. That's not what I was trying to say. That's what she comes back with. She's like, dear Google or dear autocorrect. The answer is never duck. Hey, Matt, how are you doing?
Well, we'll welcome everybody. We'll let a few more folks join, and we'll start our networking round here in just a minute. But we've got a great discussion today. Holly, how you doing?
Doing good. I'm excited about it.
Excellent, great. Thanks for setting it up. So, and I'm gonna get one more window open here. I found out because Devin is remote with us today as well, and we still have everybody's remote. It's just me and Andy here in the studio, but we've got apparently I'm still dancing to the beat of my own drummer because nobody out there on Zoom could hear the music. I think it was going out to YouTube. So if you were watching the countdown on YouTube, you probably saw it. But here on the Zoom call, you just saw idiot Jason dancing to his own beat.
We barely saw you. You just went live like as you were coming in. So we missed all of that fun stuff. But yeah, that's crazy. Deb and I both chose the same day to work from home. Sucks. But hey, Andy, behind the scenes producer. And hi, Eileen. So glad you could make it today.
So what we'll do here in just a minute, I'd just like to let a couple more people join if we can, is, and for those of you, we got some new folks who haven't joined us before, so what we'll do is we'll just start going around and doing some introductions here in just a moment, getting to know everybody. The first bit of product coffee, we're going to literally sit here, drink coffee, and talk product stuff, whatever's on your mind, introduce each other, get to know some new friends, some new colleagues. The way I do it is if your camera's on, I will try to go through and call on everybody that we haven't met first, and then folks that we do know. And if your camera is off and you still want to talk, raise your virtual hand, say something in chat. I know sometimes for some reason you can't turn the camera on. You may be at work or dealing with kids or whatever, so that's fine. Just let us know if you'd like to introduce yourself, and we'll start that here. We can start that right about now, actually. So I would love to see as many cameras on as possible. We're here to meet each other, but let's start with Anthony.
Yeah, but if for some reason you can't turn on your camera, sorry, Jason, just to interrupt. If you can't turn on your camera, but you still want to introduce yourself, just let us know. You could say something in the chat or raise your hand, and we'll certainly be happy to call on you to introduce yourself and say what's on your mind, even if you can't turn on your camera.
Yep. All right, so let's start off with Anthony. Welcome to Product Coffee, Anthony.
Hey, thanks. Happy to be here. This is my first product coffee, and actually new to Method as a product manager. So super happy to have joined that company and excited to get onboarded working with clients as a product manager there. Lots of things have my attention. It's hard to know exactly what's the best thing to start with right now. So I'll probably defer to the rest of the audience since I'm the new guy.
Especially ramping up into a new role. You have a lot of things dividing your attention. What'd you do before you came to Method?
I was a program manager at another consulting firm in management consulting, working a lot with financial services industries, specifically around risk and compliance, that type of stuff, large programs with other banks.
Well, very cool. Welcome to Product Coffee. Welcome to Method. I spent a few years at Method, a great company, great supporter of Product Coffee. You're going to have a great time working at Method. You'll love it.
Cool.
And Anthony, I spent a lot of years working in product at a financial institution. So it sounds like we might have some overlap in some past. So I'm happy to nerd out with you and catch up sometime.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. Let's see. Let's go next to Eileen. Welcome to Product Coffee, Eileen.
Hey guys, my name's Eileen. I'm based out in Charlotte, North Carolina. Really similar to Anthony, also a new product manager at joining Method. My background is a little bit different. I was previously a associate UX director at another consulting firm, ironically the same consulting firm as Anthony, but I'm really excited to formally transition my focus from user experience strategy to products proper. And I know that this conversation is really going to be interesting to me based on just the title and my particular background. So really happy to learn more from y'all.
Awesome.
But I have to ask, so did you and Anthony tell each other about this, or was there a power let's go to the stairwell and talk about these opportunities at Method kind of thing, or conspiracy?
Ironically, we didn't know each other at all, and just happened to have the same first day. And I think very highly of the folks that we've met at Method, but we also had really great folks at the previous firm that we were at. So it's really great because we have a lot to talk about and we get along.
I love it.
That is fantastic. Well, so welcome to you as well, Eileen. And now I'm going to have that song stuck in my head all day long. So thank you, because it's a great song, and I'm happy to have that one stuck in my head.
He needed something to kick out the last one. It's been there for a minute, right?
Exactly. Let's see here. Who else do we have here? All right. I may massacre your name. I hope not. I'm going to try Gildial. Oh, that's Rushir. Never mind. Your name's just backward on your email address. That's Rushir. How are you? Welcome back, Rushir.
You are on mute, my friend. Oh no. Cameron, the mute button, we're connected.
Now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can hear you now. We can't see you, but there we go. Now we got both.
Okay, got it. Cool. It was tricky for me to swipe and get to the microphone and all that, so I don't know why.
I understand.
Products still to be, products are always there are always quirks in them, however successful they are. So, hey everyone, it's been a while. I know, been busy at work and family and whatnot, but glad to be back. Good to see all the smiling faces and some usual suspects here. So what's been on the top of my mind? Well, I have been, as I said, I've been busy at work. I'm at ADP right now, and we are doing a lot of interesting stuff on the developer experience side, and we are actually building a brand new cloud management portal for the site reliability engineers, DevOps, developers, QA people, everything, right? So it's very interesting. It's something that I had been doing. I had been developing a lot of DevX and dev portals and dev tools kind of things for the last 5 to 6 years, but actually doing that for the developer folk, for the IT folk, is a whole different ball game. It's quite technical, and even though I come from a software engineering background for about 10, 15 years, it's really something else. And at the end, when you actually see the users of your product being much more efficient in what they are doing, right? Managing their database instances or patching their OS servers and all of that, right? So it's you can change the ball game right from there. And I did not know how much efficiency can be increased that way, and that can be converted into many more savings when those people are servicing your clients towards the end. It's pretty interesting, and I'm loving it right here. So yeah.
Yeah, I've had the good fortune, and it is good fortune. I've had a ball a few times this year. I've been able to work on some developer experience projects. When I was at Method specifically, I did a couple of engagements where we were really focused on developer experience, and it is cool. I don't know that there is a more appreciative user base than developers when you're working on a great developer experience, because they're always the ones that are, we got to think about the user, we got to think about the customer, and they get so often just whatever somebody can throw away to throw together to support them. And so when you actually come in and start doing interviews and discovery and research and testing with developers to create a great experience, I swear there is no more thankful audience than that.
Correct. Well said, Jason. And actually, while we are doing this, we are rolling this out on a pilot basis. And so what I've done is I've introduced two things at ADP in this particular product. Is that one is the voice of customer program, and the other one is office hours. And whenever we are dealing with contacting our users and they are coming back with feedback, it's amazing to hear exactly from them as to what they appreciate, what they want from the product, how the future, and they are doing 50% of my job, envisioning what can be done in the product and how else we can have more features for them. It's a great experience. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing all that. I really
Sure.
appreciate it. Yeah, excellent. Oh, cool, Anthony. Yeah, F3 Nation. Woohoo. So let's see here. let's see, who do we have that we have? So for those of you who are just joining us, we would love to hear from you, hear who you are, what you're working on right now, who you're with, or what your current role is, or your last role if you're looking for something new right now, and what has your attention. That can be a product management challenge that you're trying to overcome, what you're working on, or maybe a victory you want to celebrate. We love to celebrate big successes and just kind of do that as a big group. Let's see, I'm going to go, and so if your camera is on, I'll just kind of cycle through everybody. If your camera is off and you want to introduce yourself anyway, because you can't have your camera on, just raise your virtual hand using reactions or say something in the chat, and we will join you. I do want to give a shout out to someone who's off camera, and you don't have to come on camera, but I want to welcome Norma, who is our newest Product Coffee Premium member. So welcome, Norma. Glad you could join us today, all the way from Spain. Let's jump next over to, let's say hey to Lori. Hey, Lori, welcome back.
Let me come off of mute here. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
You.
Good to see you.
I'm good. I'm good. I finally figured out the secret to success is including the product coffee meeting invites on my work calendar. In there. But yeah, stuff that I'm working on. Looking forward to today's conversation because I am in the process of working to overhaul user experience methodology for my organization, inclusive of research, inclusive of accessibility considerations, and inclusive of visual design systems, everything around design. So starting to walk the approach around the organization, and so far it's being really well received. So by my product team colleagues and my technical colleagues and my sales and delivery colleagues, like everybody so far. So that's what I'm up to.
Awesome. I'm going to definitely be excited to hear your insights as we kind of dig into today's topic too, because I know you're going to have great questions and comments and observations. So you're always a great contributor here. So glad you could be here.
Thanks.
Let's jump over. I haven't seen George in a little while. Hey, George, welcome back. How you doing?
Get off mute here. Hey, everybody. How's everything going?
Going great. How are things going for you?
George Pierce, looking for a new role right now still. Had a lot of promising interviews last week. So this is the week in which I either get flushed or I get a job. So hopefully for the latter. Never taken so many assessments in my life to confirm that I am actually a project manager. I mean, that is what's just unbelievable. What's got my attention, of course, is landing these roles, but I find it interesting. The definition of project manager varies from company to company, and the expectations, just how diverse they are from company to company. So been a lot big education on what exactly the term project manager is during these interviews. So been very interesting.
Well, cool. Best wishes on those. I know you've had we've talked about it offline. You've had some great interviews. I know you're prepared. So the right one is going to come to fruition very quickly. So
I sure hope so.
You bet. One of the things we talk about quite a bit here in these kind of roundtable, kind of initial networking sessions as well. If you're looking for a new role, tell us about your background and where some of your, what some of your favorite product activities are, what you love, what you're great at, and where your strengths are. And that just puts another set of ears, a few more sets of ears out there listening for opportunities. You can connect with each other offline. That's what we're about here, is building a great community, and the best way to do it is to jump in and talk about yourself so that people know who you are and what you're up to. I see Beth White on the call today. Hey, Beth, welcome back. How are you?
Hi, guys. How's it going? Good to see your faces.
Yeah.
Good to see yours.
Let's see. What am I working on? So I've recently been hired at a identity access management company that is traditionally been doing some managed service work. And I'm trying to break out what they think they have they actually think they have a product that they've been building for their operational team. So I'm working on breaking out this new SaaS-based solution. I'm under a product marketing role, which is really interesting and different for me. I'm getting thrown back into marketing land. I don't know if I like it yet, but here we are. It's good times.
You're gonna love it. You'll be great. It'll be a great opportunity for you. Really excited for you. Congratulations on that, Beth. And
I was going to say, Beth, like, come on, like, you've got the chops for that. Like,
absolutely.
You and John are like my favorite product people that can speak to product and marketing just like on a jam. Like,
Yep.
Yeah,
Not everybody can do
that
that.
has traditionally been the jam. It's just a matter of bringing everybody with me and not going crazy.
Oh, why would you want to not go crazy? Going crazy is so much fun.
For some of us, it's a shorter trip than for others.
I know I can
never
be a
even
little
knew
crazy
Jason
at
before he
times,
went
but
crazy.
goodness. I'm trying to
Beth.
minimize that in life. Anyway, but yeah, it's good. I've been in the seat for this is week number 5. So it's always interesting joining a new company and the new culture and learning the executives and what they've been up to. So just been busy doing that.
Awesome. Well, welcome back. Make sure you grab that first 90 days kit out of the Product Coffee. You're a premium member, so grab that kit out of the archives and put it to good use. And congratulations again. Welcome back. Let's see. I see. Let's see. I got a couple more folks I want to jump to here as quick as we can. Let's say hello to Matt Bettina. Hey, Matt. How's it going, man?
Right as I killed my camera there. Hey, how are y'all doing today?
Doing great.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
I can hear you just
Cool.
fine.
All right, great. So a lot's going on, a lot of things cooking on the burner. I have 2 faces here. Apparently, I'm not sure how that happened, but that's really nice trick there, Jason.
We liked your face so much we put it on there twice.
Hey, what can I say? So I am in the middle of a new product launch with our team. I've been working on a transformation of a legacy product to a brand new product here, a 20-plus-year-old product, over the last several years, really. But the real effort has taken place in the last year. So we just finished our first release here. We introduced it at our user conference last week and getting ready to launch to market. So that is really a lot. And just trying to dig more into AI as well. I went to a really awesome AI event here in New Orleans last night, just kind of a local meetup thing, but got connected to some folks that are into like mathematics and stuff and computer science as well, and were explaining a lot of things about AI to me. So that was really awesome. Got to kind of level up my AI knowledge and looking to level it up more with some experience digging into things like Amazon Party Rock and putting some of the stuff to work from Misha's workshop that he did here with Product Coffee. So really excited to see where that goes. And I enjoyed seeing y'all a couple weeks ago at Happy Hour. So maybe I'll stop by again.
Hey,
I was going to say, sorry, Jason. I was going to say, we forgive you for going to your own thing. For those that don't know, Matt is not located in the Atlanta area, but we're about to have an amazing AI event, which I'm sure we're going to talk about later. But just stay tuned because we got that covered. And Matt, you're more than welcome to come back.
I was actually you're absolutely right.
I'm thinking about it actually because I'm on this AI kick right now, and that's one of this year is to level up my skills in terms of artificial intelligence. And I did make a connection with another local guy here who's just a genius when it comes to AI. So getting plugged into some, more hands-on opportunities like that, which are good.
So on May 23rd here in Atlanta, we're going to have what Holly was just talking about, the next AI forum. And you can go to productcoffee.com/forum to find out more about that right now. I don't even have a screen for it on here yet. Early bird tickets are on sale right now. And that ends on Friday at midnight. So, or Saturday morning at midnight, technically, end of the day Friday. Early bird tickets for the Atlanta AI Forum. Misha's going to be back for that, Matt. Misha Solpavar is vice president of product management at Cherry, of AI product management at a company called Cherry. And he has put together a whole new word. There's going to be part of this day is going to be a 90-minute workshop on using generative AI to do opportunity discovery and find previously undetected opportunities for innovation in your own business, in your own portfolio. You'll walk out of there with a toolkit for doing that and a head start on the work itself. We've got, we're going to have a bunch of great content on applying AI well. We're going to look at companies here in Atlanta who are using generative AI and other AI technologies in their products in some creative and inspiring ways. The whole day is going to be spent just digging deep, getting out of the office, going deep on being really productive with how you think about delivering value to your customers and discovering whether these new technologies can help you or not, and validating that. So it's going to be a great day.
Yeah. That sounds fantastic. You know, it wasn't my intent to tee you up for that sales pitch, but you did a fantastic job. So
Oh, I thought you read my messages. Wah, wah.
Uh-oh. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
I'll
Good
definitely check it
intentions,
out. That sounds really exciting. And for the folks on the call, like I'm sure many of you have already dug into AI and the potential for generative AI. If you haven't, like I'm a newbie at this, just start somewhere.
Hey.
Just start with the fundamentals.
99% of us are newbies at this, Matt.
This is
Except
true.
for those of us that were already artificially intelligent.
Oh.
And that will become apparent very quickly, I'm sure, on this call.
There may be robots amongst us, and we just don't know it.
Cylons are real. Conspiracy theory.
So
Devin says there's no spoon, so hey.
One
There
more
is no
chance
spoon.
to turn your camera on. I would love to take the opportunity to let you introduce yourself to our audience. If your camera's on, let me know. And I do want to jump real quick over to one of our longest term sponsors. I've got John Mansour here. John, why don't you jump on here and say hey and tell us what's got your attention right now?
Hello, hello, everybody. Nice to see you again. Well, let's see what's got my attention right now. I'm working on a statement of work from hell for a client I hope to reel in soon here, but that has nothing to do with the topic of product coffee. Fun thing coming up, client engagement. It's a portfolio marketing and strategy session with a client actually right here in Charlotte. And, those are fun because you're dealing with products that the company already has and try to maximize revenue. And the fun part about that is, you're not doing strategies for every product, you're doing them by market segment. So it's, help the company grow in specific segments and then leverage products in the portfolio that best align to the needs of each segment. So that'll be fun. Trying to keep all of our product management clients, my tagline now is keep your value eye on AI, because everybody wants to do AI for the sake of doing AI, and so I'm encouraging them to make sure that they're using AI to do something unique that has quantifiable value to the customer, and not just, oh hey, we have an AI engine in our product that's great kind of a thing. So and for those of you in product management roles, you know the drill, right? All of your executives want AI something in big headlines because it helps a lot of things. But again, making sure it delivers actual value is a good thing. And then, relative to today's topic, if I can talk about what we do for a second here and how it really helps product design. I always tell my clients, design for outcomes, don't design to solve problems, right? So you need those two things. And to me, everything we do, and this is, no right or wrong here, to me, it's just the easier way to do it. Way upstream, we have this thing called product management, some of you may heard of. And, in product management, to me, the easiest way to do it is to start with the outcomes that are most important to your customers, and then just understand the obstacles that inhibit their ability to get those outcomes, and then plan, build, design around eliminating the obstacles, and you are guaranteed to deliver value that is measurable to the customer, which comes back to you. So that's how we teach product management, product marketing, product demos, customer onboarding, and customer success. It's all around starting with the outcome and then just figuring out how to eliminate the obstacles, and value comes in droves if you do those two things. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, John. Thank you for your support of Product Coffee. Thank you for being here. I know you're going to be a great part of today's discussion too. Let's see here.
Thank you, Norma, for getting your camera working.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, Norma, say hello.
Hi, guys. So, I'm not working on anything product related. I'm not a product manager. I'm a payroll person. But my background is IT related from like 24 years ago. And so life's been very different now. I'm realizing that it doesn't work the same way. So I'm going through this path of career changing and joining this type of groups to learn from all of you, basically. Because I'm trying to see if I can either work in a company as a global payroll subject matter expert, or as I'm also trying to figure out if I could come up with a way to do my own product, not a payroll per se system, but a way to automate compliance into payroll systems. And it's actually more difficult than I thought it was going to be. So I'm trying to figure that out.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Using AI and machine learning and trying to teach models stuff, and that's one part. But then keeping it up to date is where I'm actually struggling with. Like, how do you make it go web scrapping and trying to figure that? So that's it. I'm playing with it. I work I'm finishing up my tenure at Amazon in May 31st. I resigned with the purpose of moving out of payroll ops, which is what I've been doing for ever, and trying to use my knowledge to do something to change the way payroll is done. I'm kind of frustrated that payroll hasn't changed. So you have all these new systems and everything, but it doesn't actually change the amount of manual work that the payroll people in my teams and every single company that I worked in suffers so much. And I just want to change that. If I can do that, I'll die in peace.
I love that, Norma. I want to jump in on that and say, I know I said in the chat, but there's a lot of payroll people and in Product Coffee. We've heard from ADP already, Paycor, Paylocity. So we can definitely make some connections there. But you have a powerful perspective, having been in that subject matter field forever. I actually originally started in payroll. I built payroll applications for a financial institution, and that's literally how I got into product, kind of accidentally. So when you know something like that, like banking or payroll, and you are super valuable to companies that need people in product roles, product managers, product owners, because you actually understand what can't get broken, right? Or what would be valuable, what will make it better in a way that people from the outside can't, right? So just ingest that. I would love to connect and jam out on that with you.
Absolutely. Anytime. Like right now, this is all I'm focused. This year is all about studying and putting myself with the new skills and language and vocabulary that you all guys use. So I'm available to catch up and, payroll geek.
Love it. I love it. Well, you're in the right place, right, Jason? Like, this is where we come to nerd out, learn up, bone up, and make each other better.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Norma. Thank you, Holly. And we are at the top of the hour, so I want to get started on our program for today. But before we do that, I got one more introduction. Got Jeff Meddy back with us. It's been a little while since we've seen Jeff. Welcome back, my friend. Hey.
I didn't know it'd been long enough for a call out like that. All right.
I mean,
Yeah. So,
all this
yeah.
traveling the
So
world you're doing.
that's right. That's actually my Sky Mile status is going to become my top thought of the moment. I've never really had real status, and I might actually get there this year. So
Woohoo.
I might not have to board the back of the plane every time. But anyways, yeah. So Jeff Meddy, I'm with Method. We are a global product design and engineering consultancy. We get the chance to work with a lot of great firms to build new products, new platforms, and kind of explore, what to build next. A lot of times, a lot of innovation labs and things like that. And so it's a fun space, spending a lot of time in EVs and thinking about robo taxis and all this right now. We're in the automotive space a lot, and all the challenges with EVs, but all the excitement of whatever Tesla 12.3, and it's actually going to drive me to work or whatever. So lots of fun stuff going on in the automotive and transportation space. So excited to be here today, and excited for the events coming up.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. And for those of you, we got a few folks from Method here today, which is really awesome. And Method is one of our diamond sponsors. We've got Method and Podium Studios as kind of the largest sponsors of Product Coffee right now. And we've got a few other ones coming on board really soon. So I want to thank you for your support. And you've kind of always been an advocate for the product community here in Atlanta and around the world, Jeff. And we're really thankful to have Method supporting Product Coffee and being a part of this. And I don't know if anybody can hear it or not. There is in the background, if you can hear, there is, I guess, the monthly tornado alarm, fire alarm test here in Marietta, where I'm sitting in the studio. It will go away momentarily.
We can't hear it.
Okay, great, excellent.
I can hear it at my house, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear it too.
So please tell me you guys are all in Marietta.
No, we're spread out a lot more than that. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's
So there's
pretty
a lot of
loud.
alarms
It's
going
so
off.
I'm
That's
like
great.
Roswell-ish. I'm more on I'm the most East Cobb I can get, and I can hear it. So yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
ours went
I'm
off
by
on-
the airport, so I guess that's good because I feel like if they had an alarm, you'd definitely hear it, but maybe not.
Yeah. So I do want to.
Maybe I'm just gonna be surprised tornadoed away.
Yep. So I do want to let's jump over to our session. Before we do that, we've heard from Method. I want to thank Podium Studios for supporting us and keeping us looking good here on Product Coffee, keeping the stream alive, and handling all of our production work as well as a lot of our editing work. So thank you to Devin and Andy and Jason at Podium Studios. We're so honored to have you as well. And we've got a bunch of other sponsors that we couldn't do this program without as well. And I'm dropping right now into the chat, theoretically. There we go. I'm dropping into the chat a bunch of links to all of our sponsors. And for those of you who are new, and even if you're not new, please take a moment to get to know these sponsors. They support our community, make this program possible every single week. We couldn't do it without them. There's a lot that goes into doing this, from a research, from a participation, from a promotion, from a technology standpoint. And we're thankful for all of these sponsors. And next week, we'll be announcing our newest not awesomest sponsor, but our newest awesome sponsor. You're going to be really excited to hear about this next week. So stay tuned.
Oh wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more. So also, as a reminder, and for those who are new, we take notes as a group for this community meetup. This is a community. We work together to help each other get better. Run over to productcoffee.com/notes, and you'll find a Google Doc that you can log into and share your thoughts, your perspectives, your questions, your insights. We love to capture some of the key insights and moments from our discussion today, and you can help us do that. And then you can save that Google Doc into your own drive and have access to it. It'll become part of the show archive as well for our for posterity, and you'll be able to come back to that in the future as well. So before I actually get into today's session, I would like to ask, let me switch over here and introduce Holly real quick, who is our head of programming here at Product Coffee, and tell us about what we're going to do next week, Holly.
Sure, thank you. So I had the privilege of working with Jason on the program review here. And again, I'll use this for my personal shout out, guys. Any thoughts, ideas, things you want to talk about, jam about, want to speak about, reach out to me anytime. I'm always happy to connect and chat more about these things. I want your perspective and feedback. But this month, I'm super excited that we are doing a design and innovation series. I think it's a great series. I'm excited to start today, just digging into that topic and picking it apart. And next week, we're going to have an amazing panel that's going to join us of product management leaders and technology executives to understand what do they look for from product, right? It's one thing to say, well, personally, how much do I think that I'm responsible for the design of my product? But it's kind of more important, right, to probably know like what your leadership team or the executives at your company think. So I'm really excited to get that group together and just get all of their thoughts.
Excellent. Thank you, Holly. And so let's get started with today's topic, which is the real kickoff for the series. And today we're going to be talking about crossing the design divide. And this is really, the goal of today's session is to get your voice, your perspective, as well as kind of some best practice together, talk about how, as product people, how we best work with design and innovation teams, specialists, and organizations to create the best value for our customers along the way. This is about creating better relationships and better outcomes in our day-to-day role. And we wanted to put together a session to share what we individually know, what we've experienced as professionals along the way, and also uncover some of the big questions and topics and challenges that we've had along the way to make sure that we're addressing them as the month goes on. So I want to thank you for being here for that, and let's get started with the discussion. I would love to, Holly, do you have something that you want to kick off with for today?
Sure. Yeah. So, really just kind of key up as I often do, right, just kind of key up the topic, right? Really when I thought about this, as a product person, we all know, right, that, form and function matter. Our customers care about how well the product works, but they also do care about how it looks and feels to use. And as product teams, we end up being responsible for that, right? We need to invest in the things that helps them accomplish what they need, to John's points on outcomes, but also while providing a good experience. And product design has elements, as John, you pointed out as well or already, of both product management and user experience or design in it, and they're going to intersect. But how much are we responsible for? And this is going to vary, and this is why to me a town hall is super valuable in this, right? Because we're all in a different company, or we have worked at many companies in our past. And this is just like George, you were saying, the definition of a product or project manager can vary broadly across companies. This structure of who owns it, who has responsibility for it, or even do you have a UX or design team at your organization, can vary very vastly. I've certainly worked in a number of product organizations where we didn't have anyone in those roles. So de facto, right, as I would say, you end up holding that ball because you are the one that's responsible for your users liking, if not loving, right, your application and using it and buying more. So that's really where I want to start. If someone wants to jump in here and talk about where do you approach that when you don't have an official design team?
Perfect.
And Lori, I'm going to punt to you because I know you just joined an organization in a very interesting position as the bridge. So as the bridge, where the divide, you are literally crossing the divide. You're our span.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of history and probably context to be stated here, right? This organization is almost 50 years old, and their role of the official presence of UX has kind of either been non-existent or, when I came in, was being used in a very reactive way, right? Product would come to UX and say, hey, I need y'all to design these screens for me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the biggest, I think, challenges, and this is foundational to the work that we're doing moving forward, is creating data-informed and research-informed design, right? So my goal isn't to take design decisions away from the product team. My goal is to be able to create a research repository and insights and feedback in a more well-rounded way rather than just one sales guy's opinion, for example, in order to create informed decisions. These people are subject matter experts in their respective product areas, far more than I am, far more than I probably will be for the next year or so. So, I think that's key. And I think, Holly, drawing back to your point, the way that I refer to this as the importance of design is a combination of looks good and works well. And one of the battles that we're having internally at the moment, we had some developers go off and do a UI refresh on their own to one of our oldest products, which from a UI perspective looks like it was built in Windows 95. It's one of the oldest UIs that we've got. The argument becomes, if we don't pay sufficient attention to the works well component, if we play this forward, our clients have said, hey, we need to have this updated. We need better functionality. We need better opportunities, right? All of these foundational things to the product experience. And if we come back and we say, ta-da, we fixed it up for you, but we didn't do anything on the works well side of the house. All we did was make some changes to the looks good side of the house. What message does that send to our users? And I'm taking the stance that it actually may degrade, if we don't pay attention to both sides of this, that it actually may degrade the opinion of our users, because they've been asking us this for so long and we haven't listened, and we've come back, we've devoted cycles to something that, although they wanted, the works well is actually probably the higher priority there. So I think, there's a lot of nuance to this, but I think one, product folks absolutely are capable of doing design. I think the hard part in this is being able to have enough research to make data-informed or research-informed decisions, ensuring that you're taking advantage of research best practices and you have solid data upon which to build. And then, always maintaining that back to customer and user experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's a great point, right? You talk about, who is responsible for what pieces here and the difference and the overlap between product and design. Obviously, the looking at the data, right, of how our customers are using our products and understanding what's valuable is what we're responsible for, straight up, right? It's how we're supposed to prioritize things and make all of our good decisions and have strategy and everything we've been talking about so far this year across the other series. But it should be part of this as well. And that's clearly in our wheelhouse, right? And then we should be having the conversations with the design team, if we're lucky to have one, about why those pieces matter. But I agree with your point about what you were saying, your personal experience there that's going on, because I had a similar one in my past where customers literally used the old quote of that we were putting lipstick on a pig. They were very insulted that we weren't addressing an age-old issue. And we were just like, well, you've been dealing with that for a long time, but we made it pretty. And they're like, well, a new shade of lipstick doesn't really help me.
Yeah. And, the other thing that I want to include broadly underneath the design headline is the needs around accessibility. Depending on the space that you're in, right, everything should be made accessible, period. But in some cases, it becomes, what I'm witnessing, more important, for example, for our clients who are in higher ed than in healthcare, for example. And that would be another area that I would recommend that anybody as a product manager or who has primary responsibility for a product get smart on accessibility as well.
Yeah, that's a great call out as well. And Lori, I think a lot, as I was thinking about this topic this week, one of the concepts that came to the front of the mind was, and I think it's helpful to pull out to a broader view of the whole design discussion and think about the design mindset. And whether to Holly's point, whether you have an actual dedicated design team in your organization or even some fractional designers available to your agencies, it's important that as product people, we have this design mindset in the first place. And that's about thinking holistically about the whole user and customer experience. And that's what that goes to what you were saying about thinking about accessibility. You're thinking about every user, all the users that you need to address, and what their experience can look like, and really prioritizing that empathy for their needs and their desires, and then being iterative and experimental as you drive towards delivering a great solution for that, right? And that effect has a massive impact on your overall product strategy, because as you discover those concepts, those needs, those priorities, then it can absolutely help you get a clearer picture of how to best serve your customers, deliver the outcomes that you need to, and where to prioritize the work accordingly.
Yeah, and
I love it.
one of the things, I'm just responding to Holly's comment and building off of what you're saying, right? The ability to tell the story and the ability to communicate your vision of what you've got and why, either directly into your development teams or through your UX people who can help to bring those ideas to life. The concept of storytelling and combined with the ability to communicate visually, right? To say, I'm going to draw you a picture. And, this is something, the old saying of tell me I forget, show me I remember, involve me I understand. The more interactive that you can make that story that you're sharing, the better comprehension that the person who's receiving that information is going to have about it. If you are coming at it from a research-based standpoint, I was just reading something this morning also that talked about the role of emotion in communication and the fact that when you're able to bring emotion into it. So now if we apply this to the accessibility component, right? I'm working with a user who is visually impaired, who needs to interact with the system through a variety of accessible technology, right? Alternative technology, right? And let me share the story with you of how this makes interacting with our product harder. Now we're triggering on emotion to drive communication as well. That'll help it to sink in a little bit further. Everybody's wound up right now. Figma's the 800-pound gorilla. I'm going to have the unpopular opinion. You don't have to get this stuff into Figma. You don't. Matter of fact, I would recommend that you don't. Figma's a great UI tool. Figma's great for pixel pushing and getting down to details. You don't need to do that. If you can communicate it on a whiteboard and create a rough storyboard of sorts, you're going in the right direction. That may be enough for what you need to be able to communicate to your development teams and or your UX teams if you're going to have them build upon it.
I love that, Lori. I put in the chat, about some basic mock-up skills that are valuable to have, right? Because to your point, everyone's visual, right? Even if we don't think we are, it's just a great way to communicate. It's hard to miss when that's very much laid out. And so it's like any ability you have to create a picture for the team of what it is that you're talking about is going to be critical, especially when you're talking about a UI or a UX experience, right? But Jason, I want to go back to you were talking and said something about empathize. And I just wanted to point out, right, depending on your schools of thought about, foundational things here, there's a defined phases of product development, and empathize is the very first one. And it's very much our wheelhouse. You've got, empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test, I think launch, and maybe measure, of course, right? A lot of those specifically are product management with involvement with other groups. But the empathy one, you got to start there and understand the problem, understand the outcome to, John's point, that you need from that, and then build back into these other pieces and work with them to paint that picture like you were describing, Lori. How do you get there? How do you solve the problem in a way that actually works and isn't miserable to use?
Just to, sorry to jump in there, but I wanted to just drill into some of the things I've been hearing. So as I mentioned earlier, I come from a UX background. I actually manage design teams that would support product groups. And one of the things that I saw a lot of times was when staffing projects, I think that there's this misconception that designers can do everything, right? We have designers that are UI, people who can build the UI, people who are good at facilitating user testing, prototyping, and doing user testing. Some folks are more around user research or we have SMEs and accessibility, right? So one of the things that when product teams are looking to design expertise that I would ask is, what is it that you're looking for? What are the types of activities that you're trying to validate or fill within this process that, or like this role that you're hoping to fill? So maybe they're trying to get someone to lead the design thinking workshops or process, whatever it is. I would stop thinking about designers as these magical creatures, because they're not. A lot of them have expertise in certain areas of the design thinking process. And yeah, sure, a lot of them are UI designers, but some of them are not. And so when thinking about what design help we need within our product, I would go back to, what phase within the design thinking process are we in? Are we in the empathize phase? Do we need user researchers? Do we need do we already have some ideas because we've already defined the problem and we've pinpointed some use cases that we want to have a UI potential solution to? So we want to pull in some folks to create some UI mockups to prototype or test out. I guess what I'm long story short, what I'm trying to say is when we talk about product and design working together, it's really important to understand what is the gap that we're hoping these designers or these people are going to fill within our process. And one of the things I would argue is, in the beginning, if you're already in that first phase of project charter, sure, there's a lot of overlap in what our product managers need to do and what our designers need to do. Go ahead and fill out that RACI. So then you can figure out who's going to do what, who's going to contribute to what. And then if there are certain gaps within skill sets because you hired a general designer, you'll identify that really early on and figure out, how to move forward from there.
I love it, Eileen. And always jump in. That's what we're here for, right? I know I said that in the chat, but
yeah, Jeff just Jeff Meddy, you just dropped a link into the chat as well. Everybody might want to check out with Method's Figma kit, even for those of us who do want to use Figma, Laurie. I also found an interesting tool that I think takes a different approach. This last week, there was a new community plugin for Figma that actually does wireframing from English prompts. So the generative AI builds out the wireframes for you. And I thought it was really cool as I thought about the implications of having a designer and a product manager working together to really just talk about what they wanted to accomplish and generate a visual, even if you're not in the same room working on a whiteboard like you're suggesting, Laurie, to generate a wireframe that can be the start of a discussion and a design foundation as well. So there are a lot of great technology tools out there. I want to make sure we called out.
Yeah, and outside of that, oh, sorry, Laurie. I was just going to say, you're right, back to that. It doesn't have to be, that's awesome to use tools to do that, but there's, so many ways you can capture that. And even officially sometimes they're labeled different artifacts in the product design process, depending on how your organization has structured it, right? You might start with a user journey map. That's definitely going to be Helly S to write that, right? Or work on that with the team. And then you might get to, then we're going to do a sketch. That's usually where I always joked about my crayon drawings. The sketch was Holly's, what's in her head, right? And it could be on a whiteboard if we're lucky enough, to Jason's point, to be in a room, but we're probably not. So just sketch it out on something that you can share, or a virtual whiteboard, right? And then you might get to the mock-up and the wireframe. But in many of my organizations where we had a design team, mock-ups and wireframes came later. You start with something initial. It can just be a dirty napkin sketch.
Yeah, I think so. Spring what you're saying, Holly. I worked on refining a methodology for a number of years, 10, 15 years ago, that really started with that. First of all, define who your users are. Secondly, and this kind of builds beautifully in the jobs to be done thinking, but what are the tasks or activities that they're attempting to perform and why? And then basically what you're doing with each pass, you're going a mile wide and an inch deep on all of this. So you flesh out your users, what they're doing and why, process steps as appropriate, begins to look a little bit like a flow. Then you begin to come down and you take that step back and you say, okay, if this is important for them what to do, and these are the steps that they're taking to do it, what does that begin to look like? What are the key things that you need to include on the page? And you're really kind of thinking about it in terms of the core components, right? if I need to fill out a registration flow, for example, you need to know who I am. You may need to know how to contact me either via access or phone. But then, taking the opportunity to really push back and say, marketing comes in and says, well, we need to understand what their business segment is, and we need to understand what their annual revenue is, and we need to, why? Always go back and challenge. Why do we need that, right? Because all you're going to do is clutter up the design at that point. So stay focused on who your users are, what they're doing and why, and what the minimal number of elements that you need to include. And I'm thinking screen wise, but this is also going to come into effect on a service design perspective as well, right? Let's not create a bunch of unnecessary hurdles for people to be able to interact with our tools, interact with our products, or interact with our services. So, and then the other thing that I found is if you hit a point in the conversation where you're not seeing eye to eye anymore and you're not in agreement, either with other product managers or with leadership or whatever, one of the things that I always found is go back up a level of fidelity and investigate where the breakdown occurred. So, if you begin to kind of sketch out some initial ideas and stuff just isn't feeling right, I'm willing to guess that you probably missed something at that process flow step. Go back up and revisit what's missing and then come back down again. And that's something, I've done it hundreds of times and it really does begin to hold up. But start with your who, start with your what and why, and then begin to look into the how. A lot of people invert that. I'm gonna start sketching the how because I've got this idea of solutioning in my head. Again, design thinking teaches us to think about that differently, but resist the temptation, because knowing design thinking and practicing design thinking can often be two very different experiences.
Outstanding insight. Thank you so much, Laurie.
So well said.
I want to jump over. John, you've got your hand up for a minute. Hey, John Mansour, welcome.
Hello there. So I do a fair amount of pre-sales demo training, so I get to see a lot of enterprise software. So if all of us here on Product Coffee were the panel of judges in a software beauty contest, I would say, 90% of enterprise software products out there, we would probably give them, when we hold up the cards for how good we think they did, it's like they would get somewhere between a 4 and a 7, in my opinion. And then there's the 10% that just like you go, wow, that is a really cool looking product. And to me, it's obvious the difference between what I would call the average enterprise software product, from a design usability and the really great ones. The biggest difference between them that I see from, the sales end and watching demos is there was a very clear understanding of what users are doing, the outcome they want, and the problems they have getting that outcome. And it was designed to get them from point A to point B in the simplest, most no-brainer fashion possible. And I think that is, to me, that is huge, because with that level of understanding, and this is where I think product management has some opportunities to really set design teams up for success, is help our design teams come up with the simplicity, because especially in today's world, everyone wants their enterprise software to be as simple as a mobile app on our phone. And very few of them achieve that. But when you see the ones that do, man, they really stick out. And it's the simplicity with which the user is able to do something and get the outcome they want that really separates, the 10% from the 90%. But it's pretty amazing to see. And, when I was, earlier mid product manager days back as a practitioner, when we first started out, we did not have a UX team. And so you'd see different teams doing a lot of what I'd say similar things. Like my team came up with a great looking form for a purchase order. And then the accounting team was like, oh, an invoice looks similar to that, man, we should do that, right? So you had all these different things. So we eventually put together a UX team that came up with standard metaphors, probably 15 or 20 of them for different types of things across all the applications to improve the consistency with how everything on our platform worked. And it was amazing. I mean, we won over more customers because of our usability back in the day than any of our competitors at the time. And so it really plays an enormous role, not only in sales, but in the adoption and retention as well. I mean, it affects everything.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you, John. Thank you.
Devin's also got his hand up, but I'm betting that you're going to circle us back to jobs to be done here. And I'm excited for it. Go for it.
The funny thing is I put my hand up right before Laurie said jobs to be done, and I was like, let's go. But
we knew it.
I apologize. Can't disappoint. I apologize that I don't have my video on. I caught something from my toddler, and so I look really rough. So I'll just provide my voice. But I think this is a really interesting. It's a really interesting discussion, just because having been both on the design side and on the product side, and having to manage a team of product managers and designers. One of the things that I found, I love some of the stuff that you said, Laurie, and you too, John, about essentially trying to understand what's the job that we're trying to get done. What are people actually trying to accomplish? And I love how you pointed out, John, that there's a marked difference between, especially B2B software, that you look at and you see just an amazing product. And I have 100% agree. Most of the time, most of the enterprise software that I see out there, that is exactly where I'd put them at, somewhere between a 4 and a 7. And I think that taking the time to really understand the customer, I am just absolutely blown away. And I've been guilty of it myself. I'm blown away at how often that's just not really done. We don't take the time to really understand the customer and the things that they're really trying to make progress on, the outcomes that they're trying to achieve. You mentioned outcomes earlier, John. That understanding those outcomes, it guides a design team, it guides a product team. And I've worked on a couple of projects recently, and where I think that product plays is really at that higher level of understanding, hey, what's the problem that people have, and what's the outcome they're trying to achieve. And when you're able to provide that to the design team, because what I've found is you do have some Swiss Army knife designers out there who are great at switch hitting, and they really are able to think at that 30,000 foot outcome level. But a lot of designers, they've got to carry water to actually provide a visualization of how this works and how it looks, and them also having to carry water on figuring out what the problem is it is asking a lot. Eileen talked about like not treating designers like they're magical creatures, and I definitely agree with that. I've managed design teams, I've managed product managers, and what I've realized is you have people who are good at certain things, like was said before, and I found that most designers want you to come with that information. You have user researchers who are really good, who can participate in that process. But I really do think that product is responsible for understanding the marriage between the problems out there and the outcomes people want, and the business opportunity, and what makes sense for us as a company to try to achieve. It's on product to provide clarity on that to a design team, and then from there, I say let design do their thing. And I 100% agree with you, Laurie, that we're too quick to go into solutioning. We're too quick into going to try to wireframe, sometimes even fat marker sketch something out. And it's like, hey, why are we talking about UI right now? We don't even completely understand what people want. And when I'm a consultant, I can be the mean guy who will be like, guys, why are we doing this right now? Like, you guys want to talk about UI. We don't even completely understand the problem. And when we do understand the problem, let the designers do their thing. Not against product managers, doing fat marker sketches if you have an idea. I've definitely benefited from product managers letting me know what they were thinking back when I was, on the product design side. It can definitely be helpful, but definitely hold those things loosely, because we can go in with an idea of what we think the solution needs to be. And once a designer is able to get a grasp of the research that's been done and really understand what users want, they may come back with a different answer, and we have to be okay with that, because that's their job.
Totally right. I totally agree. I'm just gonna jump in there. We shouldn't be telling them how to do it. And when you give them that freedom, to your point, Devin, right? They'll come back sometimes with things that totally surprise you. You would never have thought of, right? Or didn't know were possible, right? We're not the technology or the engineers, so we don't always know all those things. But it is important where you do have those pieces, that this is how this needs to work based on the research and the things that you've done to do that, right? And I think in the beginning, it's focused on that, like you were saying. And then as you move through the stages of the product design, let them go off and do things, and then put it in front of your users or customers and test it and understand that feedback, right? I think that's the other place we really add a lot of value in a good design process, is driving those conversations and owning those relationships and gathering that feedback and incorporating that back in to the product, to the design, but also back to our strategy, our vision, everything else that we're doing, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. John, great point there. Better the clarity, the faster you get to actually getting a product that's taken shape.
Devin, and back in my product manager days, our sprints were about 6 weeks. And so I think maybe Holly, to your point, or Lori, to your point, we used to get our advisory boards, who were more director, VP, middle manager levels, to really help us flesh out the job tasks, outcomes, obstacles, and really bring tremendous clarity to that. And we did exactly what I think you just said, Holly, which was then we would let our designers get after it, and then they would present their designs back to users, and users would go nuts over this stuff, like, wow, they actually listened to us, find a little tweak here and there. But it accelerated the development so much on the back end. I mean, it was amazing. I can't imagine doing it any other way. That's probably one of the few things about Agile that bothers me, is the 2 and the 3 week sprints. We don't have a chance for that feedback loop, and we crank features out hoping like hell that they're going to be great. And a lot of times they're just not.
That's dang right, man. I've kind of become anti-Scrum for that reason. The 2 to 3 week sprint really does not allow time. One, it was never made for design. It was made for development. Scrum was made for development. Design that doesn't really fit into that, because there's too much ambiguity. The 6 week sprint makes a whole lot more sense. And there is time to do something, to test it, and to decide whether it should be implemented in 6 weeks, for sure. To even get something pushed in that amount of time, actually.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so great, right? If you can't show somebody that what you're talking about, then it's just like we say within the team, right? That crayon drawing or fat marker, I think you called it, right? Could be really helpful to communicate that idea within the team. But the same thing with our users, right? And to your point, Devin, if we don't give them something to show them what we're talking about, even if you're talking to them about it, regardless of your sprint length, it's not really valuable feedback, because they're not reacting to it the same way.
Right.
They're like, yeah, that sounds cool. Great idea. Sorry, Jason.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a religious conversation going on here too. Is John and Devin talking about, these 2 week sprints, they're counterproductive. They don't take us where we need to go. They suppress the kind of feedback that we want, and the kind of the ability to test. Am I paraphrasing that correctly, John and Devin? The shorter sprints don't allow you to really get the kind of feedback and act on it that you think you need. But then I see Matt in here in chat, pointing out, hey, Walmart's doing 2.5 day sprints. And, you have companies like, Facebook, whether I don't know on the sprint length, but with their continuous deployment, they're literally shipping and dropping enhancements and updates multiple times a day and getting real user feedback just in the term of interaction with that as well. So I'm really curious.
Yeah, I would argue that's not really a good thing, though. I would like to see a round of hands for anyone who's really thrilled with all of these apps updating themselves multiple times a day on your phone and changing how they work within a single day.
So I think there's a misconception about how that works. And I'm really, when you're talking about these multiple releases a day, you're talking about very small incremental changes that you can test in very small, non-invasive ways. You may not even be releasing them to every user in your system. You're dropping a test that you can get some statistical significance on how that test worked, and then you can decide, do I want to deploy this to everyone, and do I want to deploy that as part of a large release, or do I want to just deploy it incrementally to everyone? It's not necessarily that we're massively changing the application 5 times a day. I would absolutely love to hear some perspectives from people who have worked both on that more rapid side as well as kind of the longer term side that John and Devin are talking about.
Hey, Jason, back to your point about religion. So if you gauge the discussions on LinkedIn for anything, the last few days, it seems like there's a number of us that have been in this profession a while, and I'm reading these posts they have. There seems to be a growing sentiment that the 2 and 3 week sprints have turned product management into a feature factory, and we forgot all about doing all the things upstream to clearly understand what it is we're trying to help our customers accomplish and why. And you know, some people have been pretty harsh in their comments, like, you know, product management has been redefined around agile as opposed to agile complementing product management, right? It is a software development methodology, but it seems to be trying to work its way back into defining how we do product management for the benefit of development as opposed to for the benefit of value to the customer. So I think it goes beyond this group right here that I'm seeing lots and lots of these comments. I don't know where it's going, but it's interesting.
I think that's a great insight, John. You know, and I think Marty Kagan ruffled some feathers a few weeks ago with the release of his latest book and his comments on Lenny's podcast as well. He said, if you're not doing 2 week sprints or shorter, you're not really doing agile, and your differentiation between agile as a software development methodology and a product management mindset is spot on. I saw Devin give you a high five on that one as well, virtually here in the chat as well. So
I'm loving it so much. Sorry to cut in there, Jason, because I've been in the same boat for so many years. Sean, you and I've jammed on this at several product camps off to the side, because depending on especially on your product or your customer market, right? We always talk about the regulatory, the banking, stuff like that, but just what you're building, sometimes these short sprint cycles do not work. And it's like, yes, I love Jason's comment about it's a religion, right? But is it a religion we're holding on to for good reasons, right? Is it actually hurting us in many cases, to Devin, so many of your points, right? And we as product, I think, are not maybe always the owner of how long a sprint is within an organization, right? But we need to be an important voice trying to drive that and say, hey, if this isn't working for my product, we're not getting a good, design. We're not having good interactions with our customers because of the way that we're doing this. Let's look at changing it, right? Why are we holding ourselves to a standard like that is just internal, right? It's not like anyone out there is driving past Windows, or Microsoft's Office or Facebook, to Jason's point, right? And saying, oh, look at their sprint cycle.
Yep. Rushir, you've got your hand up. Thanks, Holly.
Hey, everyone. Just, I think this is a great discussion, but ultimately, the answer to whether 2.5 days or 2 weeks or 4 week sprints work, and whether they can be called, agile or not, or product management or not, it totally depends on the setting that you are working under. So when I was working with State Farm Insurance, we tried 2.5 day sprints, and we called it the dojo for reasons I don't know why. But essentially, it did not work. And we were working fine for two week sprints. We were totally agile, and product management was actually being introduced into the whole digital transformation into State Farm at that point of time, and it was a huge success, but not with the 2.5 day sprints, and that was because for two reasons. One, the teams were not ready to go into 2.5 day sprints. The teams being developers, designers, business analysts, and whatnot. And number two reason was the teams were not empowered to do 2.5 day sprints. So when I talk about empowerment, it's very, very important for us to understand that these small sprints may or may not work for a number of reasons, but they do not depend on the size of the company. So I'm talking about State Farm Insurance, but it's perfectly viable that this sort of strategy will not work for even a startup if the teams are not empowered and if they are not in the correct mindset. So it totally depends on the setting. Right now, currently, as I'm working for ADP, we are working for 2 week sprints, and the design is very well laid out, and within, we talk about design and development both, and we delivered both design and development artifacts within those 2 sprints. I believe it totally depends on how well the people in the team are gelled together, how they're interacting, and the communication is very, very important there. So depends on a lot of factors, but it can be achieved. I mean, it totally depends. If your teams are not very well aligned to each other, and there can be political reasons, and there can be any other reasons for that. Of course, 2 week sprints or 2 months, you may not be able to achieve a lot there. But it comes down to the teams and the agility they are working together with, and that's what I wanted to say. Yeah.
Excellent.
I love it. Eileen, you had put your hand down, but did you have something to share?
Yeah, I do. I just
I
thought
still
it was
think you're a
so
mythical,
funny.
wonderful creature, by the way. I'm just waiting for you to do something
I
magical.
No, I just think that I was kind of laughing in the background because I'm like, we are spending so much time talking about sprints and like what is the right time length for sprints? How do we get our teams to be as productive as possible? And I just think that is the dangerous cycle that as product folks we get into all the time, whether that's business pressure, right? Like making sure that we're hitting deadlines based on what we agreed on. It's all about, did we produce did we produce the functionality, and was it released? And that, I feel like that is always the conversation, especially now due to just like budget cuts and showing that our teams are adding value, that we kind of need to flip the conversation back again to, are we advocating for time so that we are doing the discovery and the validation and the design, right, with real users before we actually go in and do those sprints. I was kind of just giggling in the background because I feel like the conversation is always like, how productive can we be? What's the right way to do it? Is it 2 week sprints, 1.5 day sprints, whatever it is? But people are, a lot of times, our leadership customers, not necessarily our product customers or users, are looking to show that we're making progress, that we're building these features, but they're looking at it in terms of, are we hitting these key milestones rather than are we creating value for our users, and how much time does that actually take to do? And I would argue one of our roles as product people is to carve out the time to make sure that there is some sort of scalable process so that we can identify users, figure out what is the right scalable operations to interact with them throughout the development or design process, right? So just like the design process, but then also if things are getting pushed through or getting ideated, whatever it is, how do we bring them in through the whole process so that it's not, how do we just roll out these features and what's the right way to do it? I'm not doing a good job of kind of explaining my point, but
I think you are.
What I was hearing a lot of is like, how do we, from a sprint perspective, what's the right way? And I feel like we're we're asking the wrong question all the time, which is how do we ensure that we are designing and delivering the right feature set that's going to create the most value for the business and for our users? And how do we do that? It is not during the sprint. It is with research and discovery.
I think you're communicating it very well, Eileen. And one thing I'd like to add to that is, and one of the things that we haven't really addressed as part of this discussion is, where is your product, your company, your organization in the overall product life cycle? Are we in new product development, or are we enhancing something that's existing with a complex existing user base and technology ecosystem? Because when you're very early on in the product development process, that rapid iteration just to test things very quickly, there's less of a design implication until you've really determined, hey, do we have a general approach to solving a problem that's useful, that's viable, that's feasible, and so on and so forth. And then as you mature, you develop more code overhead, you develop more customer overhead, and you have to be much more intentional and thoughtful about how you make changes. So taking those longer, more intentional design cycles and research cycles really help to minimize your risk for updating the product on an ongoing basis. And I think as we were going back and forth on even things like sprint duration, one of the things that we have to take into account is, where am I in the overall product life cycle? And does that have an impact in my specific business on how much time I should be taking between iterations? John.
Thank you. Yes. So Eileen, I am going to jump right on this bandwagon because I think it takes us back to our theme at Product Coffee here last month, which was product strategy. And I think there has been this gross misconception that if we're doing agile development, everything has to be agile. And your product strategy cannot and should not be agile, because if you, and this is why we're not asking the right questions and doing the right things, is because as product managers, we have to have the ability to look out at least 12 months and at a much higher level, like, what are my customers trying to accomplish? Why is it important? What's stopping them? What are the outcomes they want? Why can't they get there? And map that out from a strategy standpoint to say, if we help our customers accomplish these things, here's the value to them, here's the value to us. And then we stage the delivery in sprints. I think everyone, like, we've lost that concept of a longer term strategy to drive those sprints. And I think that's why we see a lot of these problems. I do a lot of work. We were talking about payroll earlier. I've done a lot of training with HCM companies here. And just, you take payroll, for example. It's been a pretty mundane operational product, right? Pay people correct, pay them on time, make sure you meet all your regulatory requirements. Until recently, payroll became very strategic because companies with a lot of hourly workers, they're doing daily payroll as a recruiting and retention tool, right? So now all of a sudden, it's, how do we make payroll efficient enough to run daily? What are the obstacles to doing that? What's the end game there? And then how do we stage that into sprints? That kind of big picture stuff, and then we get it down into sprints to stage it, is not happening 80-20 rule, at least from what I'm seeing. And I think that's the culprit for a lot of these things we're all talking about here today, is we don't have a grand plan, which gets back to the whole feature factory thing and everything else that has come up today.
Yep. Yeah, that overarching strategy, the big plan, has a massive impact on your ability to make the right decisions and make the right prioritizations and move at the right pace. That's absolutely right. Thank you, John. Always bringing the right insights and bringing it back to the core issue. Thank you. Matt Bettina.
Yeah, I think John made a lot of good points here. There seems to be, and Eileen as well, there's an overemphasis on process. How do we get away from this obsession over sprint lengths and processes and refocus the discussion on customer and business value and measuring that value? I think one of the things you can do is, in your test development for your actual, like, alpha or beta, even beta testing, start developing those tests that you're going to run with your customers ahead of time, and asking yourself, do we feel that what we're setting out to build here is really delivering on the outcomes that our customers are saying they want to achieve, or that we've discovered that they want to achieve? And how close are we to that? To give you some early signs of whether that sprint that you're planning is really going to deliver on its promises. We never have the complete answer until they get the product in their hands, of course, but I think it's a good litmus test early on to see where you might need to make some tweaks. We partnered with our UX team to build an inspection prototype a year ago for our users conference. And we brought them out to the airport and we did an inspection. And that's how we discovered problems with the inspection flow, a number of different user flows, and just how they were going about doing things, things that we hadn't even anticipated. And we didn't actually build that into the product until about 6 to 9 months later. So we continued to iterate on it, iterate on the designs, interview customers, etc. after we did that inspection at the airport in a real world setting on a mobile device, so we could get as close to the actual experience. And what Teresa Torres calls observations, it's not a full contextual inquiry, but it's, like a lightweight contextual inquiry, if you will, so that we could validate what it is that we were setting out to achieve with the eventual sprint work on the inspection process. So yeah, I think we've got to get back to that understanding of what is it we're actually trying to accomplish and how we're going about accomplishing it. And then let the how, let that how piece come in afterwards of how long does a sprint need to be? How many sprints do we need to accomplish this? Resource planning, etc. All that follows that discussion. But it's the discussion up front that it seems we're just either not having, or it's getting lost in this whole process. I don't know if anyone else has similar. Looks like Mary has her hand up.
I was about to say, I totally agree, but Mary, why don't you jump in here real quick?
Oh yeah, hello. So Matt, thank you for that, and I feel like you're all building on this common theme of I'm not quite sure how to articulate this, but I feel like product throughout my career has shifted from being like the innovative and the creative and the problem solving focus to the product person is almost a quasi project manager that needs to feed the sprint machine. And it's almost like you either do or you don't have a leadership team that is willing to hear the product leader say, hey, let's not forget about that. What are we trying to accomplish? Our strategy, we are going to continuously learn over time, and it takes the time it takes. You can't answer, I don't know, every single customer question or customer pain point within a 3-week sprint because technology has decided to operate on a 3-week sprint duration model. Like I don't like, I've been in some organizations where the sprint is the holy grail and you have to get your crap done in the sprint, and it doesn't matter what your job function is, versus I've worked in other organizations where the product person is kind of, I don't know, allowed to do their innovative thinking and their innovative strategy work. And then that, I don't want to use this word, but I'm going to, waterfalls into execution from a sprint methodology perspective. I just wanted to share that because I don't know if anybody else has kind of observed this whole change of what product is.
It definitely have. I said that in the chat. I totally agree. It definitely has. It depends on the company, right? But it's definitely something that we've all seen, probably, or lived, or seen, had a friend that lived. Laura, I know you had your hand up, but I'm going to jump to Matt real quick.
Actually,
I'm just excited.
We are at the top of the hour, so we need to.
Oh, there we go.
We're at 1 o'clock.
We did it, guys.
So we ran out of time. I will be
All right, Matt, whatever your thoughts were, Matt Boone, please drop them into the chat or into the productcoffee.com/notes document so that we can learn from them.
Absolutely. And for those who want to stick around, I want to thank everybody for coming today. But if, we've got Mary and Matt. If you want to stick around and talk for a couple more minutes, would love to kind of hear those insights. But I do want to remind everybody, you can catch the recording of this. If you're a Product Coffee Premium member, we'll have it in the archive later today. And even if you have to drop off, these next few minutes of commentary will be in that archive as well. So thanks everybody for coming, and we'll see you next week with the panel on coach or player, product management's role in design. It's going to be a great session. So now, for those who want to stick around, we can jump over to Mary.
Matt.
Oh, Matt, thank you.
Then Mary. Matt Boone, you're up.
Oh, okay, because I thought Mary had her hand up. But
she does too.
This has been really enlightening. We learned a lot from Waterfall. We delivered incorrectly often because the length of time between charter and customer feedback was just too long. There were no iterations in between. And so what we did is we tried to fix it by saying, let's be self-organized, let's be empowered, let's work with that Agile manifesto thing that talks about early and often feedback and customer communication over tools. And it started out good with individual teams, but as companies grew, they formed this thing called an Agile LACE, a Lean Agile Center of Excellence. And they brought these managers over that were really good at managing in the old days of productivity. But now we're in this new days where it's all about instant, intimate, frictionless transactions, anytime, any place, anywhere. You've got to be empowered and self-organizing, driven by the product owner who's there to deliver to the customer, to astonish the customer, constantly working with design thinking to figure out what does the customer want, and a lot of times they don't know. So your questioning builds a better case for or more understanding of what they want, and it's up to you to be self-organizing and empowered to do sprint length, whatever feels right. What you're trying to do is make sure you're on the right page with the customer, delivering what they want. So if a feature takes you 2 hours to do, then your sprint should be 2 hours. If it takes you 3 days to deliver a feature, sprint's 3 days. And constantly get that feedback. And then maybe once you've got a certain area with the customer that now our wireframes are done and now we're actually programming functionality, maybe the sprint changes from 3 days to 2 weeks. It's about what is the interval of time needed to deliver a function or a deliverable so that the customer can give you feedback so that you're on the right page, so that you astonish them with the right delivery at the right time. And what happened, again, companies grew, they tried to scale Agile, the LACE dictated, delegated, controlled how long this sprint was, setting up all these standards, and we have lost the flexibility, the iterative nature, the flexibility, the innovation, the embracing change. Agile is about embracing change and about innovation. It's not structure. It's whatever you need as product owners to get the feedback you need from the customer to wow them. No more structure.
Yep. I can't quote the manifesto directly. I probably ought to be able to at this point in my career, but we value product delivering usable software, useful software over process.
Over comprehensive documentation. Yeah, it's get the feedback.
Yep, absolutely.
And I guess what this has been so enlightening to me as an Agile coach, I've never really gotten this perspective from product owners before of how handcuffed you become, because we are like the administrators, scrum masters, and Agile coaches who have set this stupid company-wide, organization-wide standard of 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever the heck it is. Yep. It's not an administrative framework, it's a delivery framework.
Totally.
Did I get on a soapbox? I'm sorry.
Hey, that's what we're here for. It could be product soapbox just as easily as it's product coffee, but
product coffee is just catchier and more caffeinated.
I will say that's the most buzzwords I've heard in one speech in like 100 years. So congratulations. you won buzzword bingo.
Right.
I thank you very much for that. Is there any buzzword that I could help? I didn't know I was doing that, and I thought that we all understood. So I'm sorry.
No, you're absolutely
No. I mean, it's fine. It's just amazing. There's a lot of them.
Well, you're taught never to speak in technical language or buzzwords, so I apologize.
Yeah, we're good. Mary, why don't you land the plane for us?
So, Matt, I love what you said, and I actually jotted it in the notes document about astonishing the customer, and then what you said about structure. I don't know for a fact, but my hypothesis is that sprints as a structure are a way to organize people, and therefore it's easier maybe to organize a company or an organization through this construct of sprints and time cadences. And I feel like maybe sometimes leaders or executives kind of hang their hat on that. And we're organized and we're productive and we're effective and efficient because we're sprint after sprint after sprint after sprint. But I agree with what you said. Like the structure, it has its place, it has its value, and it supports specific functions, but it doesn't support every function. So I just wanted to tell you, I appreciate that you used that word and structure. I wrote it in the notes, and I think structure has its place, and it overstructuring, it's hard, or understructuring is hard. It's nebulous. It's probably hard to organize the human beings involved at the executive level or the leadership level. And I don't know, maybe we just need to, I feel like in the organizations I've been involved in, I somehow need to advocate and get the executive leadership team to be more comfortable with that buffer of ambiguity to then allow and empower their really, really smart product designers, et cetera, to be innovative and solve problems in a astonishing the customer way.
Well, and that's the point. The more you put structure on people, the more people shut down.
Yeah.
You give them flexibility, the more they think creatively. And
There's
it's
a
hard
time and a place for the container store, to your point.
It's hard when you have an organization that's lived in a very structured, they've had like engineering firms where everything is very measured and very, very talented. And then all of a sudden you say, we're going to be agile. And everybody's going, well, they want you to give them another hard-coded structure to adhere to. So I said, okay, we'll just change to a different approach. But you want people to stop being automatons, and you want them to be able to think creatively. You want to give them that latitude to adjust and move and evolve as the business adjusts and moves and evolves, as the market adjusts and moves and evolves. And that's the problem anytime. Every time I see Agile fail, it's because two things. One, the executives want everyone else to be Agile, but not them and their organizations. They want to keep all their head count. They want to keep all that. That's the first question I'd ask when I go in and see some executives. They talk about failing at Agile. I'd say, okay, how is your job going to be different 5 years from now when you're a fully Agile organization? To see if they have any vision for what that means. And usually they go, I tell them, it'd be fine. You say, I won't have a job. Then just negotiate a really good out package and say, I'll support the move as long as I get paid.
I'm sorry to jump in there, Mark, but I gotta run, guys. This was awesome. I'm so glad we got to stay and have a little bitty after party, but big love. So many good comments.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. And we'll be back next week at 7:30 a.m. Eastern. Hope to see you here. Take care. Bye.
Be there, be square.